Welcome back to Dan and Devin Tech Talk. I'm Devin, Sales and Marketing for Silicon Plains.
And I'm Dan, CEO.
Business owners are always wondering, how can they find the right type of employees that they're trying to hire? One of the hardest challenges business owners are going to face is finding good employees. So Dan, how can they solve that problem, number one? And number two, where does Silicon Plains fit in helping business owners to skip the challenge of employee turnover and just get straight to top-notch hires?
Right. So it is incredibly hard to find employees right now, especially considering everything going on worldwide with there just being generally a shortage of people to get work done who are skilled. And I don't know that I think it'd be it's arguably one of the hardest industries to find smart people, good people who are going to stick around in IT. IT is just terribly hard to find people who are going to stick around, and especially if you're a small business or medium business, depending on where you're located and how you're defined. But you're sitting there, maybe 25 employees, maybe you've got 100 employees, and in that size range, you're probably thinking, do I need to have somebody internally so that I can be both strategic and be tactical? Have somebody running around saying, here's what we should be doing next year. Here's how we can be more competitive. Here's how we can make our employees faster, smarter, better, stronger, whatever. And then also be thinking, okay, there's fires, go put them out.
Right.
There's basic things that we should be handling. Go take care of those things. A lot of business owners think, why we need to have somebody internal so that they can be an employee and loyal to me and, think about what our business needs because we're special. And like all business owners, we all think we're special. The reality of it is there's almost nobody to hire out there who's full-time, who is going to stick around, who you want to have them stick around,
Right.
And the colleges haven't been generating or graduating very many people at all in IT, specifically in the kind of that trade side of IT where they need to be able to come in and be good at turning a screwdriver and fixing problems that are happening. It's just so incredibly difficult. And so with, from a perspective standpoint, that business owner who's looking at it like, maybe I should think about hiring somebody internally, there's really no good reason to do that unless your business is technology. Like maybe you're a web development company, maybe you're a heavy digital marketing company. There's probably some call to have someone internal do the IT because everyone's technical. It's a technical business, and so it makes sense. Like a plumbing company has plumbers,
Right.
Right. So now it's a technical company having technical people. But if you're not in that industry, you shouldn't have that. So the perspective really across the board just has to start shifting more towards contracting this out to the right companies like Silicon Plains.
Right. I think that's a good point because, when a lot of businesses make good hires, even if it is somebody who's the right fit for their business, what ends up happening is they pretty much get swept up very quickly once they do a good job by a lot of the other companies. And it's tough to find somebody who's both good and loyal that isn't going to go to greener pastures once they get that opportunity. I mean, everybody, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. Obviously, everybody needs to grow their career, but that's one of the bigger problems that a lot of these businesses I don't think understand is it's like, well, hey, we could go hire our own internal IT person. This guy's a great fit. He would do a great job. Well, yeah, he is. And then he comes in and he does a great job. And then what happens? 3 months later, he's out the door and he's working for another company.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest problem that, we try to come in and prevent is, if you hire the right company to just do this for you, you guarantee you're never going to have to worry about it. So, with Silicon Plains, there is no employee turnover because we're a technology company. We have our own techs because that's what we do. So you don't have to worry about that if you're doing business with us. I think that's
right.
the main thing.
Yeah, big shift in perspective, right? So the companies that are used to dealing with IT people are used to that kind of break fix. Johnny Ponytail shows up with a backpack and a Camaro type of IT person, and they're used to that mindset of that's what it's like to contract this out, and that's not what it's like to do business with Silicon Plains at all. Our job is to act like an internal IT department for every business that contracts with us. And we treat them exactly like that. Our perspective and our approach and the amount of time that we spend thinking about that business, the passion that we bring to each one of our clients' boardrooms and to the employees individually is unmatched. And we're not like hiring an internal employee where we show up at 8 o'clock no matter what. You can fire us if you don't like what we're doing, and we're not going to file for unemployment.
Right.
We're under contract to give up all the passwords and the documentation, which we have to do in order to be good at our job. So we're going to have 10 times more documentation and compliance on passwords and things like that if you decide you don't like what we do and maybe you do want to in-source it and hire somebody. And so the risk, and there's no overhead from an HR perspective. You don't have to worry about training us. We've already got programs, for ourselves. And there's just no good reason for the small to medium business to have an internal IT person, much the same way that if their toilets leaked, they wouldn't go, we need to hire an internal plumber. It's become the same situation. Now that doesn't mean that all IT companies that provide the service are created equally. There's still the need, just like when you're hiring somebody, there's still the need to go and say, okay, I'm gonna interview these companies, I'm gonna see if I can compare them apples to apples. Maybe I can't, but I'm gonna look at what they provide, figure out where we have gaps, exclude the ones who don't measure up, and then look at, maybe it comes down to Silicon Plains and, one of our closest competitors, and you're gonna evaluate us based on price or otherwise.
Right.
Just like you would an employee if you were looking to hire somebody internally. But the important part about that is when you're looking for that service internally, you need technology, you need those kinds of things. You should be looking at companies like us and absolutely should be thinking about, pairing us against others and looking for that apples to apples comparison and trying to make a good choice in picking an IT company to take care of you. And it's going to be better than an internal person would have ever done. Absolutely, it's going to be better. You can't expect these IT people anymore to carry every single hat possible. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing of kind of getting over that stereotype too. Just what you talked about is a lot of people kind of get a little bit spooked when they think about contracting something out because they feel like somebody's either not going to be good enough at it or they're not going to understand their business enough to do what they need to do. But that's really far from the case, especially with us. It's just a stereotype that's natural, but once you start talking to the companies and you kind of ask them the right questions, which I will leave a link below right here to a guide you guys can download for free that'll help you get a sense of what questions to ask when you're vetting IT providers. But if you stick to that guide and you just ask the right questions, you're gonna guarantee that you're working with a solid IT provider that knows your business and understands it. They actually care about you and they're more skilled than anybody else you could hire in-house.
Yeah, it's a great resource. We get that all the time when we go in and we're talking to companies that are thinking about doing business with us. They'll say, well, I'm not even sure what to ask you guys. I don't even know. I just have to kind of trust that you know what you're doing. It always makes me feel bad because we don't want to get all nerdy, and get down in the weeds about how to evaluate whether or not we're doing, something and the competitor they might be thinking about is or isn't doing that same thing. And we use a particular word to describe it. And does the competitor use the same word? And then, after a while, it just sounds like everybody's making excuses. But there's absolutely, that resource is vital for business owners and people who are responsible for hiring this kind of service for their business, to be able to evaluate and then make it an apples to apples comparison. Yeah, super powerful.
Dan, is there anything else that you want to add to the conversation?
I think that I think the facts are out there. If anyone's looking at if they're thinking about we need to have somebody that we hire, or we've got to have an IT service that's really good, internal or external, we need to make our minds up. I think the facts are out there that hiring someone, because it's extremely difficult for us because we only hire the best of the best. But I think the facts are out there that there's so few people, and to your point about them being poached on a regular basis, it's just so difficult to find people who can handle everything from configuring network equipment to making sure the building's got good internet to making sure the email is secure, all the way up to sitting in the boardroom discussing what the big plans would happen to be. And almost every business owner I've talked to wants that. That is impossible to find, and if you do find it, that person's not sticking around. On top of that, they know they're worth 6 figures plus. So the idea of bringing them into a small business that's got 35 employees and paying somebody $100,000 to run around and fix screensavers and passwords, that does not make any sense at all. But that is the reality. The facts are out there. That's the reality of it. And so that's what makes our business successful. Is we figured out how to put all of that need into one big hopper at Silicon Plains and become really efficient. So we've still got all that. We've still got expensive people who work here. Trust me. But we also know how to be really efficient and really good at what we do so that we don't have all that same overhead that an internal person would have to suffer. Right. So I think the facts are out there that they're trying to hire your own is just getting harder and harder, and it's anymore kind of a losing game.
Thank you for that insight. I really appreciate it, Dan. And thank you guys for tuning in. We hope we helped you out today. tune in next week for our next episode. It's actually going to be about Dan finally washing his shirt, since he's worn the same one in every one of our videos.
It's hanging in my office.
It is hung in his office in the same place for the past 3 months.
He
So
told
tune
me I
in.
had to wear a nice shirt.
I'm sorry. I make the rules and then I take them away and I change them.
It's okay. I spilled coffee all over my t-shirt today.
It's the way
Just
the
gonna
game's
cover
played. You know, sometimes you just got to be like, fuck you, and that's it.